Ego. What comes to your mind when you hear this word for the first time? Sense of self. I would pick up which isn't as common of a notion as choosing a negative connotation of it, i.e., conjuring images of arrogance, self-importance, and a stubborn refusal to bend. We label people egoists when they seem too full of themselves, too disconnected from humility. But what if ego is not really a temperament or a fixed trait? What if, instead, it is a reflection of something deeper, something unresolved within unsettled anger? At its core, ego can be a defense mechanism, a shield protecting a person from their own inner turmoil. Anger may be directed inward, a result of guilt or shame simmering beneath the surface. It causes the individual to push the world away, building walls of self-importance to guard against vulnerability. Or perhaps the anger is aimed outward at another person, at the wounds of the past, or even at the social order, leaving a residue of frustration that hardens into ego. By shifting our perspective from "this person is egoist" to "this person is struggling with unresolved anger," we open the door to empathy. Suddenly, the ego is not a sign of arrogance, but a cry for help. It is not a display of superiority, but a manifestation of pain, frustration, and unmet needs. Anger is complex. It might be an enemy to a being, but at the same time a healing force which needs to be expressed or channelized the right way. If not expressed, it hides behind layers of pride and self-defense. It festers in the dark corners of our minds, emerging in ways that might look like ego on the outside, but are much more fragile on the inside. Ego becomes a mask, a way to maintain control, to avoid confronting the deeper emotions that threaten to overwhelm us. For the person who wears this mask, their ego might feel like armor, a way to protect themselves from further hurt. They may not even be aware that their ego is a reflection of their inner struggle. For the observer, it is easy to mistake this defense for coldness or selfishness. When we recognize that what we see as ego is, in many cases, tears in disguise, we can change the way we interact with that person. Instead of responding with irritation or rejection, we can approach them with understanding. We can help them gently settle the anger within and find peace with themselves and their emotions. This shift in perspective benefits not only the individual struggling with their ego, but also those who observe and interact with them. When we see ego for what it truly is, unsettled anger, unresolved guilt, or unhealed wounds, we soften. Our response becomes less about judgment and more about compassion. The dynamic changes from one of confrontation to one of connection. Ego, like anger, is not inherently negative. It is a signal, a signpost that something inside needs attention, care, and healing. By addressing the anger that lies beneath, we allow both ourselves and the other person to move beyond the walls of ego and into a space where vulnerability and healing are possible. For one, it may seem like ego, but for another, it's tears in disguise, a need for understanding, a longing for release from the burden of unresolved pain. When we learn to see the human beneath the surface, we take the first step toward creating a space where healing, not judgment, can flourish. In that space, both the doer and the observer find room for growth, empathy, and peace.